Hello and welcome to my presentation, Challenges of Syncing Files Between Different Platforms. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mathias Eggert. I'm a C++ developer at neXenio since June 2016. And what I'm doing here mainly is developing a synchronization engine for bdrive. And that is the reason why I want to, and during the developing phase, we got so many different challenges or unexpected challenges, and I want to introduce or tell you some of them today. But first of all, let's talk about some basics. What is a file? A file is a group of data on a file system with a name. That means that a file could be a directory, a hard link, a soft link, and so on and so on. Everything is a file. And the file content, of course, is a group of data. And besides of the file content, we have as well metadata. The metadata of a file is needed for organizing and managing all different kinds of files on the file system. For example, we have metadata like file size, like file ID, file name, file type, and etc. and etc. File ID is better known for Unix user as inode. And you see already that most of them are marked with the color yellow. And the reason for that is that all this metadata information are troublemakers. And troublemakers when you try to synchronize this metadata from one platform to another platform. But let's talk about it later. So what is synchronization? Phil already was introducing a little bit what we are actually doing. And we at the moment supporting Linux, macOS, and Windows. And I just wanted to say that we are not supporting, or not today, not talking about all kinds of different file systems, because under Linux you can use a big variety of file systems, and all of them has strange behaviors. So today I only focus on ext4, and I cannot tell so much about other file systems if somebody has questions. So where the synchronization starts, a Linux user has an observed directory. So this directory is observed by the synchronization engine or our synchronization software. And every time when he puts a file inside of it, we will synchronize it to the cloud. And he has as well a macOS and a Windows client computer, and there happens the same. The cat and the cat JPEG will be synchronized on each of these platforms. How this works? I will give you a simplified workflow for that. At the beginning, we have two users. All of them could use these three different platforms. And the synchronization engine, the synchronization engine we will use, creates a local database on the local file system. This local database is needed to compare the state on the file system with the already synchronized state to detect renames, add modifiers, and so on and so on. That is important later. Now the user A is putting the cat.jpg inside of the observed directory, and what happens is we are uploading the metadata information and the file content inside of the cloud, and finally we are synchronized and saving the synchronized state inside of the local database. I don't want to talk so much about our backend or about what happens in the cloud. That is some kind of magic, but I want to mention that we do, of course, much more than only uploading the file content. But already Phil was telling most of it. So we're using erasure encoding. So the file content will not stored on one cloud storage provider. We split it into many other cloud storage providers. And as well, like Phil already mentioned, we use end-to-end encryption. So that only user A and user B can read the file information, and the our backend has no possibility to read the file name or the file content. Now, user B, after we already uploaded the cat JPEG, gets a notification that something has to be synchronized, and it's just synchronizing it. It's just downloading the cat JPEG, is of course decrypting this one and putting it on the right place on side of the file system, and finally we was sharing or synchronizing one file between different platforms. Now, the thing is, it's easy because I already showed you how we synchronize, but like I mentioned earlier, there are problems with the metadata information, and I only want to talk today about one metadata information. I want to talk about the problems with synchronizing a file name. And what is interesting in that is that a lot of people doesn't expect that it causes so many problems. And so we have to talk first of all about file name comparison, because the file name comparison is very different on each platform. We have to talk as well about forbidden characters. And at the end, I want to give you a little challenge because I want to explain the problem with the file name with the leading dot, and I hope you will find a solution for it. But let's start about character encoding, how the file name character encoding is on each platform. First of all, which kind of character encoding we have nowadays? Mainly ASCII and Unicode. I mean, in the past there was much more of them, but today if you want to keep it simple, you use ASCII, and if you want to support all kinds of different languages, you use Unicode. And because of that, of course, because all platforms want to support all kinds of languages, they all support Unicode. The only difference between Linux and macOS is that they use the Unicode with 8-bit characters and Windows is using the Unicode with 16-bit characters. But that is not really a problem because there's a bidirectional function who can transform UTF-8 to UTF-16. But there are other problems with Unicode because the file name comparison, and so we have to talk about case sensitivity. Because the comparison is differently. Because Linux is using case-sensitive comparison, macOS and Windows is using case-insensitive comparison. As a quick reminder, what means that? Case-insensitive means that a lowercase character and an uppercase character deals as equal, and case-sensitive means they are not equal. So uppercase file name is not equal to lowercase file name in case of case sensitivity, in case of case sensitive, and in case of case insensitive, uppercase file name is equal to lowercase file name. Maybe you already realize which kind of problem we have because the Linux client can create uppercase file name and lowercase file name in the same directory. And we synchronize it to the cloud, no problem. But if now the macOS and the Windows client tries to download these different files, it can only download one of them because the uppercase file name and the lowercase file name treat it as equal. So here we have the problem that we only synchronize half of the information. That is obviously not so good. And we have another problem, because we cannot guarantee that the file content of uppercase file name is on each platform the same. And I will explain you why with this example. At the beginning, we have an uppercase file name stored on the file system with the content, old content. And what we're doing now is writing down or opening the lowercase file name and writing down the new content on the file system. And at the end, we're just printing out again the file content of the uppercase file name. And the result of it is differently, because under Linux, you will have the old content as a result, and on the macOS and Windows, you will have new content as a result. And the reason is here, because under macOS and Unix, you're not opening a file handle to lowercase file name, you're opening here a file handle to uppercase file name, because lowercase and uppercase file name treat them as equal. So let's fix it quickly. We just implemented a function before who checks if there is this kind of conflict, and if that conflict happens, then we throw an error, or we throw an exception, obviously, so that we're not overwriting the uppercase file name content. Let's look a little bit deeper to how we're doing this file name conflict on file system function. And the main part of it is the C++70 function stood file system canonical. Because this method is giving us the real path, or in this case, the real file name of the file we ask for. I will give you a quick example. We're starting with a lowercase file name, and of course, it's the input parameter of stood file system canonical. Under Linux now, the error code will be true because it will not find the file path locally, and because of that, we're returning there is no conflict, and we're returning false. But under macOS and Windows, we will returning uppercase file name. And that is the reason why we can compare them to each other, and we're realizing, oh, there's something weird, and we can return true, and we detected our file name conflict on the file system. I just want to mention this method is not perfectly working. For example, if you have as input parameter symlinks or softlinks, the result could be differently. So now we solved the problem that the file content, or the file content of uppercase file name would not be overwritten as on each file system or on each platform the same. But of course we have now the problem that we still cannot create the lowercase file name. And we tried many solutions. The first solution was everything is case insensitive. That means the Linux user is not able to synchronize the uppercase and lowercase file name, only one of them. The problem is obviously that there's an error. And that is really bad for the Unix user. But there's another problem, because case-sensitive comparison is dependent on the language you are using. And I will show you why. What is the lowercase of I? I tell you it's the lowercase I without a dot. And you will tell me probably, no, it's not right. It's the lowercase I with a dot. And we both are right, because if you're using Turkey and Azerbaijan language packages, then I am right, and then the rest of the time you are right. And because of that, we have still the same problem, but now dependent on the language you use. Because in Turkey and Azerbaijan, uppercase test file is not equal to lowercase test file in the rest of the world. That is true. So that's not really a solution for us. The other one is quite simple. You just rename the file name on macOS and Windows so that we at least can synchronize the file content. Obviously, that is not so good as well from our point of view, because we are not synchronizing the file name. What is for us somehow important, because we want that the Linux user and the macOS user can communicate about the files they are using. And on the other hand, if now the Linux user is creating lowercase file name with the same suffix, then we have again a bad state. So it's not rocket science, the solution. It's just rename it globally so that at the end we're synchronizing somehow the file content and the file name. Obviously, in this moment, we are overwriting the file name the Linux user was using previously. So now we could deal with case sensitivity, but we need to talk about Unicode normalization as well in case of file name comparison. And I give you an example to show you why. We're having now two strings, café, and they look the same. But I will tell you, your C++ program, if they compare these both strings, will say they are not equal. And the reason is we need to look at the Unicode character presentation of each of the strings. And you will see that the first three characters, Unicode characters, are the same, but at the end they are different. The reason for that is that you can write the E with acute different way under Unicode. On the left side you see the E with acute is a single Unicode character, and that is called composed. And on the right side you see it's a combination of two Unicode characters. It is the normal E character with the combined with acute Unicode character. I will now show you this as like this. Normally that would be combined with both, but to make it clear what I mean, I separated both of them. So that is a big problem if you try to search text inside of a long text. For example, you're having a big book or a transcription and you try to search for café. You want to find all cafés and not only the composed version or the decomposed version. And because of that, a lot of search algorithms are using Unicode normalization. There are mainly two Unicode normalization. That is the composed way, so that you try to making decomposed Unicode to composed Unicode. And there is a decomposed way where you try to, that I was explaining. So there's the decomposed version where you try to make out of the single characters multiple characters which are combined to the single character. And there's the other side around, this is the decomposed version. Now in this example, I use the decomposed normalization, and after I was using them, I will have both of the strings, and they are equal. The big question is which kind of Unicode normalization each platform is using. And we will see that only macOS is using decomposed normalization. Linux and Windows are using not any normalization. Because of that, we have again nearly the same problem. Under Linux and Windows, you can create the eComposed and decomposed file at the same time inside of the directory. But if the macOS client tries to synchronize these files, then it only can add only the decomposed or the composed version on the file system, because the composed and decomposed version is treated as equal. But we already have a solution for that. We just globally rename it, and at the end we can synchronize the file content and the file name. But that is not everything, because under macOS in the past, you had the file system HFS+. And HFS+ is storing the file name locally in the decomposed version. So before the HFS Plus is storing the file name, it makes a decomposed normalization and then writing it down on the file system. I give you an example. We're having here the e-composed version. We're downloading it successfully, but what on a HFS Plus happens, that it's locally saved in the decomposed version. Normally that is not a problem because you can still access this file in the composed and the decomposed version if you're searching on your file system. But for us as a synchronization engine, that is a problem because we try all the time to check the file system version with our version which was written down inside of our local database. And in this moment, they're not equal. We don't find the composed version inside of the file system or the decomposed version inside of our local database. And that makes problems. How to fix it? The first solution we had was to writing an own searching algorithm for the local database or comparison function for the local database. But it's not so easy like it looks like because we are not 100% sure which decomposed normalization method macOS is using. And all the time they're updating this, they are free to updating this normalization function, and we was not sure how we can updating at the same speed as well, especially because you want to support different macOS versions as well. Secondly, it's a big problem because if you do it wrong, then your local database could become very slow. And the third thing is that APFS is now the new file system on macOS, and APFS is not doing the same thing anymore. And because of that, we doesn't want it to support legacy. But what we can do is, you already know our C++ 17 function stood file system canonical, which can give returns us the real file name on the file system. And because of that, after we downloaded the file and saved the file inside of the file system, we can ask this with this method which file name is saved on side of the file system, and we can then overwrite just the file name in the local database. And because of that, they are equal again, and we don't have any problems anymore. So that was a very hard topic for us because you can imagine that all the time when we thought, oh, we fixed this Unicode problem, we already fixed the things with different platforms, there was a new problem coming up, and we were thinking all the time, oh my God, when that ends? And we're hoping at the moment we will not find new surprises. Now my favorite chapter is we have to talk about forbidden characters. And I want to make a little quiz. Can somebody tell me which forbidden character exists under Linux?
Just the forward slash?
Yes, the forward slash. You just can...
No. Also, no.
It's really just a slash. I mean, that is the beauty at Unix because it allows nearly everything for a lot of reasons. And that is the path separator, and that is the reason why it's forbidden inside of a file name, because it split different file names. And so if the path separator is part of a file name, then it will make out of the file name two file names. And because of that, it's forbidden. What do you think under macOS? Which forbidden characters we have here?
Slash should be there.
Yes, slash should be there, because macOS is a Unix system now as well. But is everybody believing me that? Or is somebody saying, no, 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 that is not possible? Because there's a fun fact. That is a fun fact that you can create a file name with a slash inside of it with your macOS Finder. And that was very funny because I was telling everybody, yeah, only the slash is forbidden under macOS. And then somebody was telling me, no, 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 I can show you, I create a file name with a slash inside of it. And I was very confused in this moment when I was finding it out. But at the end, we used the terminal and tried to print out the name via the terminal from this file. And what we were seeing there, macOS was substituting the colon with the slash. And if you now try with the Finder to create a file name with a colon inside of it, it will forbid you that, even if it's allowed. And the reason for that is that in the past, before they was using Unix systems, the colon was the path separator under macOS. And on a HFS Plus, it's still the colon. But of course, macOS is mapping the slash to the colon, and yeah. I don't know why the Finder is still supporting this old legacy, because normally macOS is very fast to get rid of legacy. I really would like to know if somebody can tell me why they are like this. I hope that you can tell me that. Under Windows, I really don't want that to guess, because I guess every suggestion will be a hit, I guess. Because there are a lot of forbidden characters under Windows. First of all, the 32 control characters, or the first 32 control characters from the ASCII table, and as well something like the path separator, what is under Windows, the slash and the backslash. And a lot of other characters where Windows is doing magics with the passes. Yeah, I guess they regret a lot of these things as well nowadays. But that is not all. You are not allowed to have as last character of a file name a space or a dot. And that's the reason is because of UX reason, because somebody was deciding, the space at the end of a file name you cannot see as a user because of that is forbidden. And the dot, the reason is they doesn't want to allow empty extensions for a reason. I mean, somewhere in the past. And that's not all, because there are file names forbidden under Windows from the good old DOS time. I really don't know what you could do with these file names, to be honest. I really hope that somebody can tell me that today. I'm too young for that, I guess. So I guess you see already the problem we have here. If you now create under Linux or macOS a file name with a colon inside of it or with a question mark, then you are not able to create this file name under Windows. And what other synchronization engines are doing most of the time is ignoring completely this file. Without telling you a warning or without telling you an error, they just ignore it. If you go then to the web application, you will see them again, but under Windows, they just will ignore it. For us, that was not a really good solution, and so we substitute the characters because we wanted to show you all kind of different characters, and I show you how. Because Unicode has a really large table of different characters, and you will find nearly every time a lookalike character for every character. So what we're doing with colon is finding a little colon. What we're doing with question mark is finding a little question mark. And here we did the same as well with the forbidden file name. First of all, we was replacing all characters, but at the end we was only replacing the first character with a lookalike as well. That is the wider version of A. Maybe if I could do it now again, then I would pick the last character, but at this moment we was not thinking so much about the beauty of the file name then. But anyways, that not really happens very often in real life, especially not the forbidden file names. So that is our replacing table in our code, so that you see it once.
If the user then would try to search for these files, you will never find it. I mean,
that's true. That is a really big disadvantage. But the thing for us is, if you ignore this file name or file completely, then you will not find it as well. So at least, and especially under Windows, it's not so common for the normal customer to searching this file via the console, via the PowerShell or whatever. But yeah, it's a normal search as well. But you're free to rename them again.
free to what?
You are then free to rename them again.
Yeah.
I mean, but for us it was better to show them instead of ignoring them completely. There's a question directly.
Are you also renaming for consistency the file names on Linux or only on Windows?
We are renaming file names under Linux as well in some circumstances, in only one circumstances, because the file name is encrypted from the server, so there's nobody who can guarantee us that inside of the file name is no path separator. And because of that, in the case somebody really was able to create a file name with a path separator, we will replace it with a colon in a macOS style on Linux. So now the challenge for you. File name with a leading dot. Maybe somebody of you already know what I want to tell you. Because under Linux, macOS, and Windows, of course, you can create a file name with a leading dot. But they have different behaviors. Under Linux and macOS, it's automatically hidden and you cannot change it. If a file name has a leading dot, they are hidden. Under Windows, that is not really the case. You can make them manually hidden, but they are not automatically hidden with the leading dot. And the problem you have now here is, if in the case the Windows user is creating the .conn file, for example, and now synchronizing this .conn files with the Linux and macOS platforms, then the Linux and macOS will see every file is synchronized, but they will not see the file. I mean, we as a developer, we're laughing about it because we always see the hidden files, or we want to see the hidden files. But most of the user doesn't want to see the hidden files because they are hidden for a reason. And for them, they want to have it easy. And that is a big problem, because then probably they will call you and will say, yeah, your synchronization engine doing something wrong here. It says everything synchronized, but I don't find .conn. Yes, .conn. So I really like to hear your solutions or your ideas. We can talk about it later.
I just have a question.
Yes?
I think, and I'm an old timer, so I may be wrong right now.
Yes?
I think that the Windows have the dollar starting character that would also hide the file on Windows only. Doesn't it happen anymore?
Which was it?
Starting with the dollar,
yeah.
Windows should be, would hide the file.
I'm not
It would be the reverse case.
I will try it out, because I'm not 100% sure anymore, because we was developing it some years, no, not some years, but months ago. And I can only guess here, because I'm thinking it's only on Windows Server like this. But I'm not really 100% sure yet. And maybe you are right. We should maybe try it out later, and we can see what happens. And then maybe we have to change our code again for new findings. Thank you for this question. And yeah, I hope you will tell me other things later.
Can you put the problem again? Like, what's the problem?
The problem is that then on the Windows you're having not hidden file .conn, but if you synchronize it on Linux and macOS, it is hidden.
It becomes hidden.
It becomes hidden automatically. You have no choice to make it undone. You have no chance to make it undone.
You can unhide.
You can unhide. Then let's talk. Then let's talk about it.
I can show it.
That would be very nice.
It's user
For
preference.
every user, you want to have this solution for every user, also the ones that won't change Finder.
Yeah, but the engine can unhide it automatically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you choose a property, or but let's talk about it later, because I will be really interested about your solution there.
What's the problem for the users? They don't see the files?
Yes, they don't see the files. Yeah.
Why are they unhappy about it?
Because on the Windows client you see the file, on the macOS and Linux client you don't see the file.
Yeah, I get it, but like,
I mean,
like psychology behind it.
I mean,
Files, usually just developers want to see them and they're used to it.
yeah, but you see a lot from the developer perspective, because the user thinks, I mean, I think simple most of the time, because they're not used to using a computer. They just see on one platform it is there, on the other platform it's not there. And believe me, you will get bug reports because of that, and they will not be thankful for that it's seen on one platform and on the other one not. And as well, maybe the one who was creating this file under Windows doesn't want it that this file is hidden. It just likes to add the .whatever at the beginning of the file name. And believe me, there are people who likes to having a dot at the beginning because they are used to it since years. And
Come on,
no, really, believe me, you have so many varieties of users.
Like 3 dots because you don't know what to do with the file.
That is, by the way, that is a really good example, because the 3 dot things really happened, for example. And believe me, it's a user space, yeah?
Was it an actual bug report, or are you just thinking that it might come as a bug report?
No.
I mean, you have the problem everywhere. Email, zip files, so...
Yes, but
Never heard of this problem.
yeah, but all the solution having another solution, because I know a lot of applications who, for example, are removing the dot at the beginning. You know, they just remove the dot. If you try, I mean, at Mattermost I was seeing it last. I don't know if you know Mattermost is kind of a chat program, and if you there download a file with a dot at the beginning, it will just remove the dot at the beginning. And so every application has its own solution with that. So I really believe that is a real problem, to be honest. Yeah?
Replaced with like similar looking Unicode.
Oh, you was giving away the fun for everybody. but yes, but maybe you find better solutions. Yes.
So from my perspective, whether to or not to show the file starting with the dot is just a user UI preference. You can set it in your file manager on Linux, for example, or if you're using command line, it's just an option.
Make it a known issue.
Or not to show them.
But then you see all the hidden files on the
Yes.
your file system.
And again, the main...
For example, the same situation would be if users, I don't know, initializes a Git repository and Git also creates .git file, which would be hidden by default.
Yes, but yes, not on a Windows, first of all, yes. And secondly, again, as a Windows user, you doesn't want that this file is hidden. And we as a synchronization engine, we want to synchronize the file like it is and not making some changes. Because we want that the synchronization engine is so easy as possible. And yes, from the developer, I understand you completely, but for user, we want to have it as simple as possible. Yeah?
Different question. Now, if I'm synchronizing program files, for example, or some data files, or to read from another program, then the program will, of course, assume that the file names are the way it created them, and they're not all renamed. So if you rename the file, I would not be able to open, for example, some documents that I saved with another program.
Yes, probably.
So is there any solution to synchronize such type of data in your platform? Or will the platform always destroy those files?
I don't understand the main point, to be honest.
Okay, let's say you rename the dot,
Yes.
similar looking Unicode character.
Yes.
And I would synchronize a Git repository.
Yes.
Now, the Git repository would break because it's not anymore in a folder called .git, but in a folder called some ASCII lookalike Git.
Yes. That is all the time a question about what is your target. I mean, I agree completely. If the target are developers, then that would be really not a good solution. But we're targeting people who are not used to making safe synchronization operation. We want to, we want to bring to everybody.
But there are a lot of other programs that do similar stuff for the end user that create project files. Let's say I'm doing a Blender project. That's something more mainstream. And Blender has its own kind of internal file system. I only have nerdy examples, but I bet there are better ones.
Are you sure with Blender that? Are you sure with that it's starting with a dot?
And stuff are in all the different folders.
Because from our point of view, I mean that is not the topic of nowadays. But we are not synchronizing hidden files at all because we doesn't want to synchronize hidden things. We only want to synchronize what people are seeing. Yeah. And from our point of view, is everything what is a program likes to hidden, we are not synchronizing. So in this case, of course, if Blender is really producing hidden files.
Like hidden files, but if you're renaming some Windows-specific extension that some certain platform.
Yeah, but I'm quite sure that they're not using the naming scheme because they will have the same problems as well. Because everybody wants to make an application for every platform, and so if they already, for example, use aux as a file name for something, then there's a point when they are realizing they could not do it on a Windows, and I really believe they will change it for every platform and not only for the Windows platform. I'm very sure that, but maybe that will be an issue in the future.
It's also another problem with file with the case. So on Mac, let's say you create a file like foobar, uppercase, then you decided to rename it, and then you also change it in CMake. But file system doesn't see the change, and it's not the change of the file name is not reflected in Git. Then you push, and whoever fetches this on Linux cannot build anymore.
True.
So this problem.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I mean, we don't want to replace Git because Git is doing all those kind of things by themselves very good. And you should synchronize Git repositories via.
Some use cases from a pure Mac or Unix developer, even if it's a mainstream program, he never knows about the Windows world, and he's using question marks or whatever in his file names that could create problems.
Yeah, but he will have the problem not only with us, I guess, at the end.
Okay.
How about creating some sort of symlinks, some kind of pointers that there is a hidden thing there?
And what is the name of the symlink then?
It's for you to decide. But the idea is that you just create something external which resembles the real content.
Yeah, but the problem is the Symlinks has the same name issues, file names issues as well.
But it works for the dot something.
So that you're having a Symlink with a dot at the beginning, then you can...
So on Windows you have dot file name, for example, and on Mac you synchronize it as dot file name, which is hidden, and then you create whatever with ASCII lookalike
neXenio
file name.
dot this name.
With the same name.
Click here to open file dot.
Okay. I will say let's discuss later about it when we have more time about it. I'm really looking forward to it, but I just want to finishing it and having a quick conclusion here. What we learned today, I hope that for you was a lot of challenges we had, surprising as well, and you was not expecting that just the file name could cause so many problems and errors. We learned about the character encoding, that's UTF-8 on macOS and Linux and under Windows UTF-16. We saw that every platform has a different comparison file name function. Under Linux, you have a case-sensitive comparison without any normalization. Under macOS, you have a case-insensitive comparison with a decomposed normalization. Under Windows, you have a case-insensitive comparison with no normalization as well. And what we were seeing as well today is that Linux and macOS has just one forbidden character, and Windows has 43 forbidden characters plus 24 file names.
It's not 42.
Huh?
It's not 42, sorry, I was thinking loudly.
The answer.
The 42 forbidden characters, the answer. Sorry.
Okay. I got it. You should write a bug ticket to Windows because of that. If you have questions, but we already asked many questions, then you can ask it now. You can write me an email as well if you want to tell me something. And if you want to access the slides, here's a link to the slides. It's PDF. Thank you for your attention. And I see we have already a lot of questions. Eggert, thank you. Yes.
Are actually 1 or 2 dots valid paths on Linux?
What again? Dot?
1 dot or 2 dots, are they a valid file name on Linux? Because I think you cannot name folders, for example, like that, because it's either CD up or the current directory.
Now I know what you mean with dot and...
Please repeat the question.
Okay. The question was if we have problems with the dot and the dot file name under Unix, and this, you have this as well under macOS, and you have it as well under Windows, by the way. And what they are in reality, they are hard links on each platform, and we just ignore them in any circumstances. I mean, because they have really a special purpose, or what? And it's very hard. I mean, you cannot really create a dot and dot because on any platform in any directory there exists the dot and the dot file name already. Yes.
I mean, also just out of curiosity, the length of the file name is also a problem. So what do we do with very long file names on Linux if you want to sync them on Windows?
Actually, not anymore, because Windows is since 2-3 years can support file passes till 65,000 something characters. Luckily, by the way, Windows 7 has still the problem, but we are hoping that the support for Windows 7 disappear till somebody realizing this issue under Windows 7. But yeah, we need then something tricks or whatever in this case, but hopefully Windows 7 runs out next month. Yes?
Have you measured? Please.
Most file name limitation you mentioned on Windows are actually a limitation of the Windows GUI of the Windows GUI, because NTFS doesn't have those limitations. You can create Windows file names, AUX, and so on.
That's true.
On a Linux system without issues.
Yes,
I
that's true.
believe you can create them without special C++ code too, actually.
Probably, but probably.
You can even create case-insensitive file names.
Yeah, that's true.
File names with case different characters from VSL, not the 2 version, but the one which maps on Windows commands, so somehow it is even possible.
That is true. We could create them. We create them in the real world actually. So we found a way. I'm not so 100% sure why anymore, but we was creating forbidden file names on the Windows system. But then it's very hard for the user to dealing with these files because the Explorer doesn't like it. Windows doesn't like it at all. If you try to remove this file, for example, it's very hard because you need to find this magic code as well for removing them again. And especially for users, that is not really a good way to do. But yeah, but you're right. The limitation on Windows is most of the time because of the operation system Windows and not about NTFS.
Yeah, of Explorer actually, because Windows can deal with them.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, macOS and Windows tries twice that I mentioned to change to case-sensitive comparison. But I only know under macOS they was trying it in a beta. And Adobe, for example, was not working anymore then. And so macOS was going to Adobe and was saying like, hey, you have to change it. And Adobe was saying, no, we will not change it. And not only Adobe was saying it, and so at the end there was using again case-insensitive comparison. A little fun fact besides of that. Legacy is always a problem, I guess. Yeah, but first here.
Yeah, my question was, how often do you encounter these symbols in production and support? How hot is this hot bus with this map on?
What now?
The code that you showed that maps this characters.
Oh.
How hot is it?
It's very hot, to be honest, because if you're a macOS user, then you like to create a file, the directory with a question mark at the end, or you making a colon and adding some text extra to it. And we find that out this issue, for example, because as we was using bdrive here in this company, we have a lot of macOS user and Windows user, and we created a party directory with a question mark at the end, where there was a lot of important files for organizing this party. And the Windows client was not able to, creating this directory. So it actually really happens quite often, especially the forbidden characters. Not the DOS names, to be honest, or I didn't saw it, but yeah, we would see.
About replacing Unicode characters.
Yes.
So what happens if you create a file name with a colon on Linux and it gets replaced on Windows, but then you create a new file with the Unicode character that you use on Windows, on the Linux client. And you have a conflict.
I mean, in this case, on both systems, we replace it with a colon, in this particular example. Because even under Windows, we're replacing the slash and the backslash with a colon for just this case. But what we're doing is we're having then a file name conflict, and this file name conflict we will solve with renaming it or letting the user renaming it so that he gets a warning and he will get a notification. Especially because we are encrypting our file names. Nobody guarantees us that somebody is uploading twice the file name. So we have to deal with this problem anyway.
Last question? I think you know.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot to add 2 things. The file name length limitation is again a Windows Explorer limitation. If you use the
That's true as well.
notation, you can write 1,000 more characters long file names. So again, it's then difficult for the user to deal with them because Explorer has its own limitation.
That's true.
And the other thing that I wanted to ask you talked about normalization, Unicode and so on. But actually on Linux and Windows, file names are just a block of bytes that aren't really necessarily encoded. How do you deal with that?
I mean, yeah, you're right, that there are just blobs. That is the reason why they're not using any normalization as well. And what is the problem from your perspective? Because you say how we deal with them.
The file name comparison.
I mean, this
when you have to decide to rename or not.
under Unix, it's like it's a standard that they're using the UTF-8 Unicode to interpretate this blob, and under Windows, it's the standard UTF-16 to.
Yes, but for example, Sigwin for overcoming the limitation, for example, that you can't use colon or question mark as a limitation, uses internally invalid UTF-16 code points. So it's not a really valid encoded UTF-16 string.
And what happens then? Then it's not, you cannot access this file because it's not a valid Unicode again.
They even show nicely
But
in Explorer and so on,
let's-
but they don't think you can do normalization.
Let's talk later about it, I guess, because we have here one talk more. And I like to what we do, we little break, 10 minutes break, and then we listen to René. He has a very good talk as well.